welcome really quick. We're doing an introduction here for the Cabal cut. If you didn't get a chance to get the Blu-ray of the Cabal cut, you can at least hear our audio commentary that we recorded for that.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. It took us a long time to prepare this commentary track. We were approached by someone at Seraphim when they were preparing for the Cabal Cut Blu-ray, and they told us, hey, you guys want to make a commentary track for this? And we're like, heck yeah, we want. So it was fun. I mean, you had a different idea, a different approach about this. You wanted to talk more about Occupy Midian and how it got started, and because you thought, and rightfully so, that this Cabal Cut edition was going to be a celebration of the community of fans, Occupy Midian, and everybody else who, even if they're not an Occupy Midian, everybody else who took the time to go see the screenings that Russell was doing around the world and stuff like that. So we ended up coming up with a halfway compromise where I got a lot of trivia stuff, and we talked about how Occupy Midian got started. So yeah, and here it is. I mean, we were given authorization by Seraphim. They said, hey, you guys own the recording, so if you guys want to release it at some point in the future after the Cabal Cut Blu-ray is sold out, go ahead and do it. So why not do it now when it's Christmas, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a neat bonus thing, and we can still put out a recording and still have, time with our families over the holidays.
That's right. And, if you have the Blu-ray, I guess you don't need this. But like Ryan said, it's a good way for you guys to listen to some of the trivia that we came up with. And I think you may kind of visualize in your mind, if you've seen the Cabal Cut and if you have the director's cut, you may have an idea of what we're talking about in certain sections anyway. So, so make yourself a cup of coffee, get yourself some popcorn, make yourself a cup of tea, and just start playing this. And I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hi, thanks for listening to us in this commentary track.
For Nightbreed, the Cabal Cut Blu-ray.
I'm Ryan Danhauser.
And I'm Giselle Etang.
And we're two of the founders of Occupy Midian Group on Facebook.
And the weekly Clive Barker podcast, or BarkerCast,
which you can find at www.clivebarkercast.com.
We are honored and excited to keep you company throughout this film. So here's a Morgan Creek production of... I love this animation, this marquee that goes on.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
gorgeous.
And there's a lot of cool stuff in here that doesn't actually appear in the movie. Like, I love the unhinged jaws Peliquin.
Yeah, and Ashuna Sassy dancing. So here's the Wall of Prophecy that was painted by Ralph McQuarrie. It depicts the history of the breed, and you can see the branches of this tree holding some strange, wonderful creatures. It's separated in several long, kind of sprawling murals that depict not only their origins, but their persecutions at the hands of what they call the naturals. So it's a very striking piece, I think, that it kind of foreshadows and at times intersects with certain events of the film.
I love this. I also love this Ralph McQuarrie painting. And here's Malcolm Smith as Ashbury. So if you were lucky enough to see the Cabal Cut screening at the Lovecraft Film Festival in Portland, Oregon on May 2013, Malcolm Smith made a rare appearance there at that screening.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were there. You took some pictures.
Yeah, he was a really kind of soft-spoken. He was a nice guy. Almost agreed to come on the podcast, but then he changed his mind.
I have to point out that for you Grateful Dead fans, you just saw the Grateful Dead logo on the wall.
Yeah.
On the lighter side of trivia, the painter of this mural in the film is supposed to be a werewolf called Toledo. He was Babette's father, but unfortunately he was cut from most of the film.
Yeah, and Toledo was based on the dog company logo, right, that Clive Barker designed back in the 70s.
Yeah, it seems like he was thinking about that when he came up with the design. They had certain plays called Day of the Dog or just Dog. So it's something that shows up in Clive's drawings every once in a while.
He's wearing a kind of a tank top.
Yeah. And we saw Image Animation credit there. They're an amazing effects company. They really broke records for the sheer number of monsters on screen for Nightbreed. They did some truly amazing work bringing the creatures to life.
And now we're into this dream sequence, which, you know, the more I watch this, I keep thinking this must be second unit, right? Because most of these characters in this scene are second unit. I mean, not second unit.
Reshoots?
Reshoots, yeah. You got
Probably.
Leroy Gom and Devil Lude you never see them with other Nightbreed.
Right, and Shuna Sassy.
And Shuna Sassy, yeah, exactly. But this is an example of a reshoot that actually really added to the movie and did something cool.
And that the Gates of Midian there, I think they're miniature work.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, like Hellraiser, this film doesn't waste any time showing us an opening that's filled with images that jump at us and it drops us in the middle of this creature-filled sequence. I just love it. It's full of music and dancing. It also seems to depict a hunt, not just an invitation, but a warning about who is allowed to enter and leave the Gates of Midian every night.
Yeah. And of course here it's not totally clear, like in the theatrical cut he woke up, you know, so that was obviously a dream.
I'm seeing Boone working at the garage right now.
Yeah, exactly. So here he's not waking up from a dream,
right.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, that's the first major difference here from the theatrical cut is that there's no awakening scene, but we do get more characterization of our main characters, you know. Boone at work, Laurie is introduced with some additional information about her career as a singer because she's telling him that she's going to be singing. I think this cut really rounds up their characters and their relationship in a more satisfying way.
It's really neat because in the theatrical cut, we didn't know what either of these people did for a living or much about their relationship with each other.
Right.
Which is, I think, kind of a tragedy. I mean, the movie was chopped up so much.
Yeah, and the sound quality here is a little rough, but that's just because it's sourced from a couple of old VHS work prints that were found in 2009. A lot of footage for these new scenes on the original Cabal cut was VHS work print.
And they were playing Country Skin there in the background, which previously only showed up at the end credits.
Oh, that's right. That's a cover version from an Oingo Boingo song, right?
Yeah.
We just saw Boone's apartment. And here's Decker being introduced in a more gradual way into the movie, into the story. It builds up more gradually the tension between him and Boone and this interaction. You know, of course, David Cronenberg plays Dr. Decker very chillingly. He did a great job. It's kind of a very subdued performance. You know, it enhances his detached, kind of cold demeanor.
Yeah.
And then the music here really picks up on the tension on the phone conversation and builds up on it. Boone starts feeling kind of self-doubt about his mental condition. He's expressing confusion. He's like, I think I'm doing well, but he's already being manipulated by Decker.
And big shout out to the editors of the Cabal cut because they still only had the music from the theatrical version to use for this, and it was, you know, edited really well to reuse the music in a way that still does a great job.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because all these scenes in the work print, they had no score.
Yeah.
So here's Laurie's apartment. And I have to point out that her apartment kind of adds also some things about her character in the background. You know, she's very solar. We have a postcard drawing of the sun back there. There's a photo taken at the beach. There's lots of photos around her vanity that kind of looks like a performer's dressing room. I just love how focused they are with details in this movie, and also that shot.
It's neat her being the sun and representing humanity, where he's the night and the Nightbreed that we'll find out later. Of course, I don't think it's possible for us to spoil this movie for anybody that's watching.
Sure. She's got some airmail letters back there. She had some pictures of England and France. And, of course, Laurie's dressed in white while Boone has a black shirt. So that kind of introduces this duality thing.
Yeah. Night and day.
Yep. Some of this footage, some of the good footage for these new scenes, it's very clear. It's crisp. It doesn't look anything like the VHS work print. But, unfortunately, they found only MOS shots, which is called motion-only shots. So there were some sound elements, but I guess they couldn't afford to like work on them, so they had to just use the work print sound on this.
Yeah, which is pretty good most of the time. It's there's only a few times where the dialogue is kind of quiet and you're having a hard time hearing what they're saying. But for the most part, it you don't really notice too much.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
It is nice that this movie really takes its time to establish these characters and what they mean to each other, because the theatrical cut really didn't do that at all.
Yeah, and Laurie really cares about Boone. You can tell by the the word expression on her face.
Also interesting here that Boone just decided to leave for the night, and then they leave Laurie's apartment for the night, and then they cut to this. Nobody watching this cut now is going to be falling for that, but I think that the implication is that maybe Boone, is this murderer.
Right, yeah. Well, you saw the moon being enveloped by a dark cloud just before we're taken to the Rickman residence. These are the Rickmans. Perfect example of suburbia. She's Melissa Rickman, and she was actually played by an opera singer called Valda Avix. And the little boy that she was talking to, his name in the script is Lou 2. I guess to distinguish him from the other
2,
Lou 1.
Like Cindy Lou Who.
Yeah, he looked like he was dressed in Care Bear pajamas, holding a little teddy bear. Yeah, a nice touch. I think they were still pretty popular at the time.
Every time I see this movie, and I've seen it hundreds of times, this part still will startle me and make me jump. Right here.
There's Decker.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a spoiler, right? If this movie were going, the way that for a new person.
Absolutely. I shouldn't have said the name of the character.
No. I think it's great because nobody's gonna listen to us for the first time watching Nightbreed.
I hope not. If you were listening to us watching this movie for the first time, please watch it on your own.
Yeah. Ugh. And that poor guy, he just thought his wife turned the lights out. And seeing this movie in HD, I noticed in the theatrical cut for the first time, you can see the tears on that poor kid's face. Just really, horrifying. Really yeah.
As it turns out, he's not the only kid. Because now we have the police murder scene where they're going to introduce Inspector Joyce, played by Hugh Quarshie, who was in Highlander and Star Wars.
Yeah.
He played Captain Panaka in Phantom Menace, I think.
Right. He had one of those guns with the grappling hook on it.
Yeah. This character does not exist in the Cabal novel to begin with.
Yeah. He's another sort of a human introduction to the Nightbreed world. Like he's one of our guides that sort of grounds us in the human world and is discovering the Nightbreed along with us. Him and Laurie, I think.
He reminds me of that other character from In the Heat of the Night, because he has to deal with some rednecky.
Oh yeah.
Police officers. But his character arc for Inspector Joyce underwent several drastic changes according to which cut you're watching. I mean, the theatrical director's cut or this one. I think his arc was always incomplete in all those other versions. But in this one, I think they really pieced his arc together.
Yeah, I mean, literally cut short, right? by Decker's knife.
Oh, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Here's Decker's office.
Yeah, and he's got those masks on the wall.
Yeah, the little kabuki masks on the wall of his very sterile office. I think it's a very telling sign of Decker's obsession with masks, as we'll see up ahead.
Hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, he's not only obsessed with covering his face to commit murder, but he kind of surrenders his will to the mask, as we're going to see in this cut. He aspires to be a non-existent void behind the mask. Whereas Boone wants to find a place where his sins will be forgiven, Decker kind of allows his sins to kind of slide off him because he's just not there. He's absolved by surrendering his responsibility to the mask.
Yeah, which doesn't... It's funny that he's such a smart guy and a psychiatrist, or at least a phony psychiatrist, that he thinks that people will actually care, when he tries to blame his crimes on the mask.
I always wondered who Boone ever heard from Midian from.
Yeah, yeah.
In
me
chapter
too.
3 of Cabal, the story tells us that he heard about it half a dozen times from some people in mental wards and hospices.
Hmm.
I guess it's like a place on the other side of the looking glass, right? A place where the alienated can finally feel like they belong,
Yeah.
and kind of a fable that comforts a small part inside of us.
And this part, the tape, I always wondered, like, what if he called his bluff and played that tape? What would he hear?
That's a good question. In the book, the scene went on for longer, and it was basically Decker kind of gaslighting Boone, telling him that he
Yeah.
not only committed those crimes that he showed his pictures, but he goes through times, places, and names and tells him I'm just trying to dig up your repressed memories, but really he's just programming him to go to the police and
Yeah.
confess.
And this scene is newly added, not in any other cut, only the Cabal cut. But this hug between Decker and Boone just shows how devious and amoral Decker is. That he
Yeah,
can he can put on this caring facade.
it's a very strong moment. I think it makes more sense to include this in this cut. I mean, any one of us would crumble under the idea that we're such vicious killers, right?
Yeah. I always thought he finds out later those pills are lab quality hallucinogens. It's like, what does Decker expect to happen with that? He's trying to go turn himself into the police theoretically, and he's hallucinating, and he can't. I mean, he probably wouldn't even want to go out of the house.
It's just trying to make him confused.
I guess. I mean, it just seems like sort of a practical joke on Boone. Haha, you think you're taking lithium, but you're
Yeah. I just want to point out that that Babe rainbow frame on the wall, surrounded by
yeah.
those hubcaps, was actually a limited edition screen print by Peter Blake, who designed the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band cover. So that's kind of like a piece of art there.
That's cool. And he's got hubcaps on the wall.
Yeah. Oh, well, it makes sense because he works in a garage, right? The body shop.
Yeah. And he sets fire to these things right in the middle of his floor.
Well, he's tripping pretty
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
This is different from the theatrical, which just immediately cuts from Decker's office to Boone walking along the highway, and this one shows him coming to grips with his decision of ending it all, but
Yeah.
makes it more definitive by the symbolic act of burning all his things and love letters
His
and
passport. Yeah.
photos and just cutting once and for all with his former life before he walks into the night to disappear. As a little bit of trivia, the fire effect in this scene is usually accomplished with what's called a fire bar. They put like a bar in front of the camera with gas and then they just light it up.
Oh.
Yep. They're making out in tighty whities.
Yeah, right.
In the director's cut, they added an effect to this scene.
Right, yeah. Like a motion blur, right? On their
Yeah, that's
bodies. And here it's just straight on. But yeah, and I wonder, because back in 95 when I was at a book signing with Clive Barker, and I had asked him, what's going to be on the director's cut Laserdisc for Nightbreed, and he said, lots more sex. And so I wonder, this might be part of what he was talking about. It's pretty tame.
I wonder if there's any more footage, if there's like a different version of their meeting in the police station in Sheerness and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
Oh, here it is, Johnny Get Angry.
Yeah.
The discovery of this musical sequence in 2009, when Phil and Sarah looked at the tapes that Mark Miller found in Seraphim, that was a real treat.
Yeah.
I remember the excitement when they announced it after they screened the tapes.
Yeah.
I'd wondered about this ever since I got the Nightbreed making of the film book, because you can see pictures of Laurie on stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wanted to go to that screening, that Horror Hound screening, and I missed it. But then we had started the podcast, and then we heard about the Cabal cut was going to be premiered for the first time, and was like, well, I've got this podcast, that's my excuse, I'm going. And
Right.
yeah, I used my airline miles, and we flew down to I flew down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and got to interview Ann Bobby and Craig Sheffer. I waited in the lobby until the VIPs could go in right at 4:00 on Friday afternoon, went straight to talk to Ann Bobby and Craig Sheffer, and we had this little interview, and Craig Sheffer had said, "Hey, if this movie doesn't get put on a DVD, then people are going to occupy Morgan Creek." And Ann Bobby said, "Occupy Midian." So that was kind of the start of this whole movement. Basically, her coming up with that name, which we kind of laughed off at the time, but when she used that a couple of more times, once at the bar with everybody at Seraphim, and then again she called it out to the whole everybody at the screening, we thought, oh, this is going to be big, and if we don't do something with this, somebody else might do it, and just kind of let it go and drop the ball.
Yeah.
So we looked up who owned the website, and Russell Charrington did, the editor for the Cabal cuts. So we're like, oh, that's great. Well, let's do the social media stuff, and let's do the petition.
Yes, that was how we did it. Yeah, that's how Occupy Midian got started. We'll get back into that throughout the movie. I just wanted to say that Nicholas Vince was in the audience wearing a black hat, and the venue where they shot this scene was called the Mean Fiddler, and there were some really special audience members there who were cut out of the final sequence. And Bobby's sister was there, as well as Neil Gaiman, the writer, artist John Bolton, and splatterpunk writers Craig Spector and John Skip, who made at least 3 appearances during the shooting in different scenes, but only one of which survives. And a funny bit of trivia, Nico and Barbie Wilde also took some of the cast members to a cabaret in Soho called Madame Jojo's, where they saw a drag queen called Ruby Venezuela perform on stage. Seems like they had a lot of fun during the shoot.
That answering machine. This is Boone. You know what to do. Adios. I used to joke about that with my friends. I really should have gotten him to record that into my phone when I met him.
Well, you got him to do a bump for our podcast where he
That's
said...
true. The Clive Barker broadcast.
That's right. We started that group in March of 2012. I think it might have been the 23rd or 25th, maybe, on a sleepless night, along with Roger Boyes from Florida. We just started adding as many people to it as we could.
Yeah.
All our Clive Barker friends. It grew slowly at first, but in a week we were getting hundreds of people. And
here's that doctor.
yeah, this is Kenneth Nelson. Here he plays the emergency doctor, but for you Hellraiser fans out there, he's also in the dinner party where Julia kind of breaks it up to go to sleep. And his wife says, "Doctors."
Yeah. He's poking around with all the compassion of Joseph Mengele, and I'm telling him, listen, I'm going to pass out. Of course you're not, old boy. Of course you're not.
Yeah, that's right, honey. Like Occupy Midian. We started it in March. Then we had 350 members in a week. Then we had 1,200 members by a couple of weeks. And by May 2nd, we had 3,000 and then 4,100 in May. It just kept on growing exponentially, really.
And the petition signatures even always outpaced the members of the Facebook group, too.
Oh, yeah. In April 8, we had 500. 2 days later, we had 1,000. By June 1st, we had 5,000 petition signatures. Halfway through June of 2012, we had 6,000. Nowadays, we have almost 14,000 signatures.
Yeah.
I talked to Phil and Sarah Stokes at Revelations, and I said, did you guys ever receive those signatures from other petitions that were done back in 2009? And they said, no, probably you should start one yourself. And I was like, all right. So we kind of got together and did it.
Yeah.
Here's Narcisse being played by Hugh Ross. We had him on the podcast early on.
Man, they really dirtied up that King Rocker t-shirt.
Yeah. I like that he's got cargo pants on. I mean, if he's supposed to be a drifter, it's a great idea to have extra pockets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, I wear cargo pants.
Well, it's a fashion statement.
Yeah.
That King Rocker t-shirt was actually something that was mass-produced. They bought it from a store. I think they bought a bunch of them. And there was a replica produced during the Cabal Cut touring days.
Yeah, I just wore mine yesterday, actually. I was out playing Pokemon Go with my King Rocker t-shirt representing Occupy Midian.
You were hunting Pokemon Nightbreeds.
Yeah, right.
Mark Miller actually owns one of those Narcissus blades. Clive gave it to him.
Yeah, that is really cool. I wonder if Hugh Ross has the other one.
In the novel, Narcisse cuts off his face, not his scalp.
Yeah.
But I guess this works better for the actor because in a book, your imagination does the work, but in a movie, the actor has to emote through the makeup.
His backstory in the Nightbreed Chronicles is pretty sparse, but it basically said he was a really good actor and he always wondered if there was another creature beneath his face.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And Neil Gordon designed this makeup. There was an early design with green skin coming up underneath the human skin.
Yeah, and they had tested it on one of the effects guys first, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I saw a picture of Hugh Ross actually with that early design makeup. Yeah. So I think that would have made some sense.
I thought there were also pictures of one of the effects guys with that. But maybe I'm wrong.
There may be some Polaroids somewhere.
And here you kind of wonder what Boone is thinking as he runs away from Decker. It's like, wait, you're the guy that gave me the wrong medication.
He's not making a whole lot of sense. Something about a place called Midian? He's dying.
Yeah, like here. Also, there used to be a woman's scream when they were going down the hallway, but that was fixed for the director's cut.
Yeah.
You know, they ended up replacing it with another Narcisse's screams.
And that brought up an interesting point because, I guess it's what do you assume? Because I always thought that was Narcisse, and just because he was in so much pain, his scream was sort of otherworldly, I guess.
I thought it was like a nurse or someone else.
And I think that's probably more what most people thought.
Here's the interrogator at work. Of course, he's going to torture him.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a public place, and the only thing separating him from everybody else is a curtain. And you'd think there would be nurses going in and out. I mean, where does he get the time and the privacy to torture poor Narcisse?
Well, he's Decker.
Yeah.
So here Boone drives to Midian. A lot of these external shots were done in Calgary, Canada.
Yeah. One of the very few, and then stay in your own lane, Boone. One of the very few shots that were done actually in Canada instead of on a stage in England.
Right. We just saw a beautiful matte painting of Midian by Cliff Cully. I think his son Neil also did a lot of work on them because Cliff was getting close to retirement. But yeah, like 95% of the movie was actually shot at Pinewood Studios in London, and then they shot maybe like a week in Canada, I think.
I remember a lot of the times when people were calling for a screening of the Cabal cut in Canada. They're like, "It was shot here. We want our screening in Canada." And I'm like, "Well, it's good."
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. This whole set, the Midian set, was on Pinewood, and it cost £70,000. The art department had about a £250,000 budget, and they used it for pretty much a week. Wow. And then they blew it up. You maniacs.
You blew it all to hell.
The deluxe edition has all these like extras on it, the director's cut. And in it, there's one called Making Monsters, where Paul Jones says that it was very cathartic to see the set explode. Because at that point, everybody was just tired. And, they knew that the movie was being interfered with. And then they were just like, oh, man, we just want to be done with this. So it was cathartic when they blew it up.
And at some point in the development of the script, they decided that there would be no town of Midian like in the book. I mean, even the comic book that was based on early scripts had a town of Midian, but Nightbreed they never did it.
I'm going to guess it was like a financial decision for budget reasons.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It really doesn't serve that much of a purpose, and it's that would be a lot of money to spend for something that's not that important.
It is strange that a cemetery is just in the middle of nowhere without a town.
Yeah.
But I guess that's Midian. That's kind of like a fable-like location. And it's nobody knows where it is.
There's Frank.
Yeah, a little Boston Terrier.
Yeah.
I always wondered why he screeches like a monkey in this scene. That's weird.
I think they just had to find a way to say, yes, he's a Nightbreed too.
Yeah. Simon Banford as Onaka. I always wondered if the roar in this scene here, if that's supposed to be Pelican.
I don't know. Yeah, or maybe just some sound coming out of a tomb somewhere.
Yeah. Onaka was supposed to have been tattooed by angels, right?
Yeah. And this is cool. So this you won't see in any other version. We've got a little bit of an Onaka versus Boone knife fight here.
Kinski.
Jeez, yeah, versus Kinski. What did I say, Boone?
Onaka.
Onaka, yeah.
Kinski. Yeah, there's Kinski. Kinski the protector. I like the way that he's immediately on the attack, like he's one of the guards. And here it comes. Big reveal. There he is. Pelican, played by Oliver Parker. Started out being moving man on Hellraiser 1 and 2, and now he's a filmmaker in his own right.
Yeah.
I've killed people. I'm like you, that's why I'm here.
That is a great makeup.
Yeah.
If we eat him, we break the law.
So that's an interesting point, too, where Kinski's like, if we eat him, we break the law. It's like, why does Kinski want to eat people? He was a guy who took a potion that made his face change into a moon shape. So
St. Victor's dissolution.
Yeah, so what about that makes him a cannibal?
I don't know, but they sure in the book and in the movie they also hint that a lot of breed may be cannibals.
Yeah, or they all for some reason have this urge to eat humans. Something that ties them all together somehow.
I think that was not the best choice to depict the breed.
Yeah. And the this thing about I can smell innocence at 50 yards, I wonder if, does Cabal get that power later on?
Maybe it's a power, maybe he's just being kind of sarcastic. I don't know, that's
Yeah.
up to the viewer to decide. I like this big reveal here, that the Pelican makeup, it was actually done by Simon Sacy, who, as we record this, passed away just a short time ago.
Yeah.
And he worked on this with Bob Keane.
And there was an effect in those tentacles, dreadlocks on his head, that they had like pneumatic air in them that would make them flail around like a garden hose.
Was it?
Yeah, I think, who was it that told us that? Was it Simon Sacy maybe?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. We did an interview episode with him on the Barkercast, so
Yeah.
you can look it up on our blog.
Yeah.
That line, everything is true, God's an astronaut, Oz is over the rainbow, and Midian's where the monsters live. It's so good. And it's not in the book. It was made up for the movie. Another big change here from the novel Cabal, where Kinski was Jackie, a six-fingered breed, and Pelican was more like a giant lizard.
Yeah.
He inhales his features while talking to Boone, and then he turns into a man. On an early design of Pelican, he had two smaller appendages over the top of his mouth, like dreadlocks, but more like a strange mustache.
Oh, yeah. Probably makes the actor less emotive, I guess, to have that covering up his mouth.
Yeah, that rotating mausoleum here when Boone touches his bite,
Yeah.
that was shot using a forced perspective miniature set. Julian Perry worked on that. He was model unit supervisor.
That's so clever.
Yeah, we wrote an article with him called Nightbreed, God of the Miniatures.
They did so much with this movie on a small amount of money. Just a lot of really smart, clever stuff.
They used a lot of different techniques on image animation. They played around with lots of textures and stuff, and for like a few months, and then it was like, all right, now it's time to lock it down and start creating the creatures. So,
Boone gets blamed for the fall of Midian a lot, but I think there are a lot of different people to blame. Like here, look at what Kinski and Pelican just did. I mean, I think they're kind of to blame too.
well, because he leads everybody to Midian.
Yeah, but if they just stayed underground and waited until he left, then none of this would have happened.
That's one way to look at it. Sure.
They come out and they hurt him, and then they chase him out of the cemetery.
But they don't know that here. The other people don't know that. They just see him come out of the cemetery.
Yeah.
I didn't hurt anyone.
They're just following him there because he mentioned Midian.
Yeah.
But, I have to mention that this kind of a trope, like an entire police station is just sitting there in the dark without all that procedural work that goes on.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen that way, especially as the radio cracks in immediately after the headlights go on, when everything else was just silent until that
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
You know, I guess we forgive it because it just works so well.
It looks cool, yeah.
And did you notice that the first shot happens while Decker is still in the line of fire?
Yeah, I did. Yep. Yeah, he could have gotten shot easily, but I guess it's worth the risk for him.
They're the most trigger-happy cops I've seen.
Yeah.
Where's the gun?
But it totally makes sense here when he says he reached into his jacket
Yeah.
because he had the bite mark, so it just works.
And in the comic adaptation, Boone was like, "Hey, wait a minute! You set me up. You gave me a hallucinogen. That wasn't lithium." And then that's when Decker said he's got a gun.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, in my idea when I watched this movie, that scene in the hallway at the hospital after Narcissus scene.
Yeah.
To me, Boone knows that Decker is the killer. At least that's what I've always thought. Or he suspects him.
That's a good point. I mean, you never really get a clear idea of when Boone figures it out.
Miss Winston, can you identify?
And it's been so long, I don't remember when I figured it out.
This is also an extended scene here, extended sequence where
Yeah.
they're going to interrogate
I love
Laurie.
this gurney cam.
It looks like Joyce brought his own corner to Sheerneck. I'm not sure if that's how it works.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, right, because Joyce was in Calgary with this guy, talking
Right.
about the kids and stuff.
He used to talk about you all the time.
Or maybe Joyce brought him back to Sheerneck, and that's where they are right now. I mean, to Calgary, and that's where they are right now.
It's also a little strange that Decker is present during this interrogation.
Yeah, he really just sort of clings on to everything that's going on.
What was your relationship with
And well, I guess he likes to be in control. That's kind of his character. And Cronenberg said that he played him like that too. Like his movements are very subdued, and he's a man who always wants to be in control of everything.
There was in an earlier version of the Cabal cut when Decker says when Decker says everyone has a secret face, I think Laurie said like you go to hell.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar. I think I might have seen something like that. I like this guy here. Jesus, they weren't taking any
Yeah.
chances.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing Clive Barker mention that that particular actor really hammed it up. He was like, "Hey, can I just ham it up here?" And that's why he says, "Sweet dreams."
Yeah. Coffee break.
Yep. I think it's great the way it switches from VHS work print to like HD footage here.
Yeah.
But I don't find it jarring at all. I mean, I've seen other work prints like this, like when they were making the Halloween 6 producer's cut. That's another thing.
Alien 3.
Alien 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, the assembly cut. Yeah. So I'm used to that sort of thing.
But geez, I mean, if it's a choice between that and not getting that stuff, I love it. I'm happy, totally happy with it.
Sure.
And if people don't like it, there's always the director's cut, and if they don't like that, there's the theatrical cut. So, lots of choices.
In this scene, I always want to tell Decker, "Geez, give her some room, man."
I know you're invading my personal space.
He's so overbearing.
And Occupy Midian member Colin Lakativa got a tattoo of that pelican bite on his shoulder.
That's right. He was a very active member at the group. Yeah, I remember one time he pledged when we were pushing for the 5,000 signatures on the petition. He pledged that he would shave his head if we didn't make it by I think it was June 1st or something.
Yeah.
And it turns out we did.
And here we just saw Boone dive out the window, which is cool because in the theatrical cut it was just a broken glass.
Yes,
was
but
implied.
he just awakes naked and jumps out of the window completely dressed.
Well, I mean, I think he at least grabbed his. Well, that's true. He had jeans on and stuff too.
And boots.
Yeah.
When you see a black rectangle on the top of the frame on the VHS work print, that comes from a mark that used to read, I think, Nightbreed, copyright 1989.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why there's that black rectangle there.
Probably easier than trying to do each frame.
It would
cloning
take
it
forever.
out. Yeah.
And it would still look like something was there.
Yeah, it would just look like a weird ghost if if they did that.
Well, and this is interesting. This is the Decker's secret knife room.
Yeah.
And,
So this is the big reveal that it turns out Decker is really the killer. So I don't know at what point does the audience figure that out. Is it here or maybe earlier?
I always thought it was earlier. For me, it was earlier. The minute I see him on the hallway of the hospital, for me, that's when I realize, oh, Decker is the guy behind this.
Yeah, if anybody out there, is familiar with us, and let us know what you think. When do you think the audience figures out that that Decker is the killer? Because it's been so long, I don't even know. I don't remember.
I was always interested in knowing what's on the walls there. It just looks like the black and white photo of a mutilated dead man.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, where's that from? Is it one of his victim photos?
Maybe his first one?
Could be.
And here's Lori with her car, which is like a station wagon, driving the same Calgary road.
This might have been a place called Bragg Creek, but I'm not sure of that. Oh, and here's an exterior shot of Sheer Neck, and that's actually funny because that exterior shot of Sheer Neck is from Stephen King's 1985 movie Silver Bullet. Yeah, it's the exact same shot. I guess they just put it in. They probably licensed it and put it in because they didn't have that shot. And it's the intersection between West Fremont Street and South Wright Street in Burgaw, North Carolina. I think the place where it's supposed to be this bar is now an H&R Block.
It's a little more boring.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those losers will win the lottery.
Yeah. That's Cheryl Ann, played by Deborah Weston. I love this interaction here, this conversation.
I think it's really interesting because Cheryl Ann is just really kind of crude and
matter of fact.
Yeah, undelicate, I guess, with Lori, who's going through some really terrible things. But it's actually really helpful for Lori. Kind of pulls her up out of her funk.
I think she might do it on purpose. It's a way to address someone instead of just like getting embarrassed or feeling like, oh, this is awkward. You just start talking to them like normal people, and they just kind of snap out of their funk.
This is the first time I heard of a guy doing it when he was dead. It's like she's kind of making jokes about something that's pretty terrible.
Well, further up ahead, she'll say, "Shut up, Cheryl Ann."
Yeah. So she knows that she has this problem.
That's right. When I met Ann Bobby during one of those Cabal Cut screenings, she still had that same bracelet that she has throughout most of this movie.
That is cool.
Yeah. In the book, Cabal, in the novel, this interaction, it's a little more extended, I guess, but they do talk about going to Midian, and it's pretty much like this Cabal cut is pretty much a good adaptation of the book. It's amazing how different the theatrical cut altered the story, and now it's kind of restored in this cut.
Yeah, and they meet Curtis the banker in the abandoned Midian town, I think, is the main difference.
It was a burned out restaurant, I think. Right?
Yeah, right. Right, like he pretended like that was their date, was in this burned up restaurant.
Yeah.
And there you can see Decker's arm right there. I hadn't noticed that, before, but
looks like he's having what's the name of that drink that's made out of tomato juice?
Oh, Bloody Mary.
Yeah, it looks like a Bloody Mary. So I love this set here. Midian at night, Boone's baptism. I just love the way they descend into the ground and you see this kind of mummy.
Yeah, it's a weird cross section of. It's like it's not a weird cross section of what the Earth would look like if you cut into it, down all the way to Midian.
I think it's a miniature set. There's a nice dissolve there at the end, almost imperceptible when it dissolves into the hallway. Where that hallway, by the way, I think is the one where you see the Wall of Prophecy.
Yeah.
You hit me again, I'm gonna rip your face off. It's just a way to say welcome to the club.
I wonder how they ventilate to keep all the smoke out of there from all those candles and torches and stuff.
We can tweet at Clive Barker at realclivebarker.com.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's not the Twitter handle, real Clive Barker.
Yeah.
So this scene of the music crescendo here is just beautiful. It's so solemn. It's very ritualized.
Yeah.
And there's Shunasasi, which means this is a reshoot. This is a later edition.
And that Midian key that Lylesburg is wearing, you know something about.
Yeah, I own it. I got it from a prop store, and it wasn't cheap. And I know I kind of bid against some other people out there listening to this, so I'm sorry, David. But yes, I own that copy of the key. So now I can release the Berserkers, so you better do what I say.
Right.
Who is your advocate? I am. Have you tutored him in the law? Yes, he has. Let the advocate answer.
And for those of you out there that don't know, and we've had this discussion lots of times, and there's a lot of people that thought that the theatrical cut Lylesburg was voiced by Doug Bradley just with like an accent. But it's not true. That's a completely different person. So here we get Doug's performance restored the way it should have been.
I know we keep bringing this up on our own podcast, but there's Mexico. The
Yeah.
Nightbreed called Mexico. He's there in the shadows on the right of the frame.
Yeah, with the hands on his neck.
And of course, Narcisse has to be always a disruptor.
Yeah.
So this is basically a baptismal scene. It's the blood of Baphomet. He's going to judge him,
Yeah.
see if he's worthy. And we know what happens to those who aren't worthy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I wonder if that's a bluff or because they don't seem particularly, except for like Peliquin,
Yeah,
they don't really
Peliquin.
seem particularly vicious.
That expression Peliquin was making was more like a "take it, boy. If you're
Yeah.
not one of us, I'm ready to pounce on you."
Yeah, and I wonder how much Peliquin is thinking about the Wall of Prophecy and the bite.
Yeah, I'm sure, because at the end he mentions it. So
Yeah.
I always want to clap after the scene. Sometimes I even do it, even
Yeah.
if I'm by myself. I'm gonna clap now.
Even even
Woo!
even Frank the dog cheered for him.
Yeah, old doggy.
Congratulations on not dying.
That's right. Here's the hangover cure.
Yeah, ugh.
That looks gross. Hair of the dog, like they say.
If the dog is two raw eggs in a glass.
Yeah. Of course, this is just giving us a little more story arc between Cheryl Ann and Lori,
Yeah.
getting all buddied up.
Yeah.
They're going to go Thelma and Louise on this.
Of course, he happened to be checked in here at the crossroads of the world.
And Bobby looks so beautiful in this scene.
Yeah. At this point in the movie, does the audience figure out that Curtis Banker is Decker?
His name is Curtis. He's a banker.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Lori
I
kind
guess so.
of makes fun of him and calls him Curtis Banker, but yeah, I mean, he's kind of ominous. They don't show his face.
Well, you're definitely suspicious, so he's a
Yeah.
mysterious character, but
Right. And there's not a lot of room for mysterious characters other than, Mr. I don't know.
that's a good question. But the thing is, they spoil it almost immediately.
Yeah, and he didn't buy her a drink until Lori left the room. It's kind of shame on Lori, I guess, for not seeing him there in the bar.
Shut up, Cheryl Ann.
Yeah. In the comic adaptation, it was Lori who yells, "Shut up, Cheryl Ann."
Yeah. Such lovely glass paintings, It's just great. When they say looks like the gold rush is over, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we addressed this, and I was always like, "Where's the town, though?"
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the town just disappeared into the swamp.
We used that glass painting we just saw as the banner photo for Occupy Midian.
Yeah. She's got a Buffalo Days hat.
Of course. So here's more glass paintings.
Yeah.
And, there's a whole bunch of like glass painting extras on the deluxe edition, the 3 Blu-ray deluxe edition of the director's cut.
Yeah, with test shots of just Boone and Laurie walking into them to see how it looks.
For a long time, all I had to watch was like an old VHS tape of Nightbreed I'd recorded off the TV. Watching this on a Blu-ray, it's just so much better. You see all this vibrant color.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, all the detail.
I had it on a Laserdisc when it first came out, but it was pan and scan. It wasn't widescreen.
That's the part that I thought should have been cut out.
That's true. If she just said Curtis,
Yeah.
maybe that would have been enough, right? Because then we could kind of come up with it on our own.
I always think that hand is going to reach out and grab Laurie.
Yeah, like in Lord of Illusions, the hand sticking up out of the ground that grabs Harry.
So here's Babette's rescue, and Aunt Bobby calls this scene her first rescue.
Yeah. Yeah, she's after this scene, she got really involved in animal rescue. And she's even written 2 books about dogs.
Yeah, it's Best Friend for Life and Love Me or Leash Me.
I have them, but I haven't read them yet.
You know, Babette's transformation required 4 stages, 2 prosthetic and 2 animatronic. She was designed and sculpted by Tom Loughton, who also did some work on Toxic Avenger and Starman.
This scene establishes something that this psychic connection between Laurie and Babette that's been a major part of the Cabal cut, but was kind of subdued in the director's cut and didn't exist at all in the theatrical version.
That's right, yeah. The theatrical only had that one flashback scene where she shows her the past.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the extent of their psychic link.
What is it, the sun? You don't like the sun?
And there's Rachel, that was played by Catherine Chevalier, who we tracked down, right? And we talked to her, and we had her on the podcast.
Yeah, her brother, I think it was, put her in touch with us to talk about Occupy Midian and restoring, possibility of restoring her voice to the Cabal cut.
That's right, because her voice was dubbed in the theatrical cut with what was referred to for some time as a crazy coffee lady.
Yeah, that's who Aunt Bobby called her, because she did coffee commercials in England, I think.
Right. She was like the voice for like a coffee brand.
That sort of gypsy sounding voice.
She's just a child. She doesn't understand.
Some of the prosthetic stages for Babette's transformation that we just saw. What do you think about Rachel's real voice versus crazy coffee lady?
It's hard to come up with an opinion because, you spend 20 plus years hearing it the other way. So
Yeah.
it's hard to have an unbiased opinion about it.
This is not a place.
I agree. I think I do like the other voice better, the dubbed voice. I think it works better for me. Of course, in this cut, I think there's like 3 or 4 people doing the voice for Rachel.
Right.
One of them is, I think, Vicky Barker.
Yeah, and then we have Catherine Chevalier, and we have the coffee lady voice.
I don't know. Who
That's
these
right.
people are, but I saved the child's life.
You know, the novel Lylesburg was pretty different from the movie Lylesburg.
He was kind of like a cool guy with sunglasses.
He was a smoker, gaunt man, that can use shadows to envelop his body. He's like the patriarch of a nomad tribe.
Yeah. He wasn't so much of a ineffectual sort of leader, I think, as he is in the movie.
Yeah, in here I think he's very based on the law sayer from the island of Dr. Moreau.
Mm.
Especially in the way that he keeps saying, that is the law.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then Clive gives him this awesome origin in the Nightbreed Chronicles book, where he's one of the holy freighters who brought the body of Baphomet into Midian. And, you know, he comes up with his story about some guy going down the eye socket of the skeleton of a giant. And it's amazing. You have to buy the Nightbreed Chronicles book if you can find a copy.
Yeah, and now that the Nightbreed craze has kind of subsided a little bit, you can get Nightbreed Chronicles for a decent price again. But it was up to like $50 for a while on eBay when the news of the director's cut was out.
Well, it's a great book. It's got a lot of cool photography by Murray Close.
And written by Clive Barker, which is, you know, that's really cool.
Please don't go. Wait a minute.
So in the book, Mr. Lylesburg would kind of control the darkness when she tries to go down the stairs to kind of grab Laurie and kind of keep her from going down.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen here, but in a way, the dark will still grab at Laurie, at least in the cinematic sense.
Yeah. Yeah, she goes to go through a lot. I mean, it would be tough just to walk past all those snakes.
Why does it have to be snakes?
Yeah.
Here it is. It's funny, this scene also starts a dynamic between Peliquin and Laurie.
Yeah.
He's like staking his claim, she's mine.
Yeah. Yeah, who are all these screeching Nightbreed that are trying to get her? Right at the entrance.
Like guardians, I guess?
Yeah.
Cheryl, we're going. Something's kind of
Cheryl, we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think this moment would be more disarming if we
Yeah.
hadn't seen Curtis the banker pull up just
Right.
as Laurie goes into Midian. You know, I like the way the body is shown here without a jump scare.
Yeah. Yeah, and she starts to see clues like the blood on the window there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You can see that that grass is just stuck on the ground in bundles because
Oh, yeah.
that's really pine wood. So
Yeah.
and here is Deborah Weston stuck to a tree.
With a knife in her back.
Yeah. So they show the body without a jump scare, which kind of lets us as the audience feel it, like that visceral feeling of fear in our gut. But then they kind of spoil it because Decker appears right next to Laurie on an open field. I guess if he's not in the shot, he's invisible.
And I always thought that this scene of him taking the mask off seems a little out of character for what we learn about him. That he doesn't want to connect himself to the masked killer.
That's a good point. Yeah, I agree.
But it's, you know, it's a major part of the movie, so you can't just take it out. But
So I love the violins in this this Danny
Yeah.
Elfman cue here. They're just perfect. It's
yeah,
just a perfect chase scene. And the title of it, it's Uh-Oh, Decker.
and there's like train whistles or something too.
Oh, yeah, I can hear those.
I'm not gonna let her die.
I remember there was one version of the Cabal cut where this scene, the sound was slowed down, so he'd be like, "I'm not gonna let him butcher her."
Yeah, so he's arguing there with Lylesburg, and there's an interesting thing here. When Boone is fighting these Guardian breed in front of these 6 statuettes around Baphomet, in the Marvel comics, it was mentioned that Boone was like the 7th savior of the breed, and they mention
Yeah.
a bunch of names like, you know, Lucifer, Chi-Chi, Baphomet. And also in a deleted scene where Shuna Sassy is talking to Peliquin, she also mentions that Boone is supposed to be the 7th savior.
Yeah.
So I wonder if those 6 statuettes are representing the 6 previous saviors of Nightbreed.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, isn't this where the dead are supposed to go?
But you're not dead.
Oh, you're wrong, Decker. We're both dead.
Boone.
So here's a showdown.
I always thought it was really interesting the way that Decker just really freaks out about the idea that when you kill somebody, they don't die. and that kind of makes the work that he does meaningless, in slaughtering people.
Right. I think he takes it personally. That's why he chases Boone down.
Yeah.
Of course, this is the Cabal cut because of how close it follows the book Cabal. And so in the book, Decker does go out to blame the mask. He kind of feels it tighten around his face when he blames the mask for making him do these things. It may be all in his mind, but with Clive, you're never sure. It's like, is there something supernatural going on?
Yeah.
I love that we finally hear his name spoken on camera.
Yeah.
That's something I always had a problem with,
Right. Yeah. You learn so many of these breeds' names from the end credits instead of from the movie where it belongs.
Yeah, that's okay for a background creature, but not one of the main characters like Narcisse.
Yeah. Well, like Kinski, you never hear his name spoken, right, in the movie at all.
Yeah, that's another one. That's true. In the book, this scene sees Narcisse get disemboweled.
Right. Yeah. But that doesn't kill him.
But one thing that Clive changed for the better was that Decker here in the movie doesn't use guns, even though he does use guns in the book.
Oh, that's true.
That's why Boone says at one point, "Don't you see? Blades are no better than bullets."
Yeah, and Decker is more iconic, only using all these assortment of knives. But he's more realistic in the book when, using whatever is the most convenient. So here I would say that also Narcisse is equally to blame for the fall of Midian.
Yes. He had to interfere. He had to touch Laurie's face and wake her up.
There's a pretty big chain of events that Nightbreed are, I think, equally culpable in all of this stuff, besides just Boone.
Boone's makeup there, we saw it when he was transforming. That was done by Little John from Image Animation, John Cormican. And Decker's mask was also designed, sculpted, and painted by Simon Sacy.
There was a line here in one of the old versions of the Cabal cut where he says, "What's Decker gonna say? The guy I killed is a ghost?" Or it was something weird like that. Like the guy I killed is still alive and he's a ghost, and
I saw him at a cemetery.
Yeah, something like that. It was, it was just kind of playing off like, oh, nobody's gonna listen to Decker because his story doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but he kind of represents this authority figure, and he's not going to say they was there to kill Laurie, so obviously he can still lead their enemies there.
And I love this conversation here about, well, I'm going to go, if Baphomet makes the laws, then I'll go talk to him.
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Nice Cadillac there. I heard some of those busts that we saw around Baphomet were also used to design some of the makeups. And one of them, when they're talking, it seems to have some markings on the face. So I don't know if that's true, but it probably is.
Does he say broke down dizzy? What is that? What does that even mean? He's talking about the phone broke down, but who's dizzy?
No, he says broke down, did you?
Oh, did you? I thought he was talking about how the phone broke down.
I think he's talking about the car.
Ah.
That's why he stopped there. Is it broke down, did you?
Wow, it's amazing how I can see this movie so many times and learn something new.
Yeah, this is John Agar. He was actually married to Shirley Temple. And this is all part of the 2.5 weeks of reshoots that happened in September of '89 when Fox wanted to put more of Decker in the movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that this scene does give us a little more insight on what motivates Decker and why he's so angry about this and why he kills people.
This scene and the one killing the desk clerk at the Sweetgrass Inn are pretty well establishing Decker as sort of a slasher villain character.
Oh, by the way, this character's name, it's Grinnell.
Grinnell.
For 27 years, most people have not known this guy's name, but in an old article from Fangoria, Clive Barker calls him Grinnell.
Well, there we go. It is nice that despite the fact that these reshoots were studio mandated, that Clive Barker still created them himself. So they're still directed by Clive Barker. They're still great. And you don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, I think that if something's good, they decided to leave it in.
I also like the great art design of all these sets. I think that was the work of Steve Hardy. Great art design for every single set in this movie.
Yeah. I still sort of question a little bit how Decker could have hidden in that little shack. There's not much room to move around. He probably would have heard him or something, but
Hey, he can pop up right next to Laurie in an open field, so
yeah.
he's a ninja. He's got skills. I have one of these plaster skulls. Unfortunately, it got damaged in shipping, so it kind of broke into a bunch of pieces, and I had to put it together. It's doesn't look any good. So here's also Babette having lines where she doesn't really have any lines in the theatrical cut.
Yeah, and they're talking about her psychic bond with Laurie, which is important in the movie, about how Laurie connects with the Breed later on to go rescue Boone from the police station, which isn't really explained in the theatrical cut at all.
And she can see through Babette's eyes. She can see the horrible death of Onaka.
And they feel each other's pain too. So like she says, the bad man hurt you, or something like that, hurt us, something like that when Decker hit her.
That's right. It's a great explanation here of why a lot of people try to hunt down the Breed, because they're just different and they don't like things that are different. Which is sad, Yeah. I think we should celebrate differences, and that's kind of what makes life interesting, right? When we were at the Crest Westwood screening of the director's cut on October 27 of 2014, Clive Barker said a phrase that kind of stuck with me. He said, "God gives you the chance to be odd, and the devil gives you normality."
Yeah, I loved that.
I love that too.
And it's true, life is short.
We have an ossuary in the south of Portugal where a chapel is entirely built out of bones like this.
Wow. That would be something to see.
Yeah. So this was some of the first footage of the Cabal cut that I ever saw. I guess in this one, this whole flashback scene is not as extended as the Cabal cut that I saw.
Yeah. It spanned across different time periods, and there was a guy with a blowtorch and
lighting a cigarette. Yeah.
And it was all kind of interconnected by one Nightbreed that was wandering across all the landscapes, like, signifying the Nightbreed's escaping through time from persecution.
And you see all the black tape that's like flowing around everywhere.
Mm.
That was actually tape they got out of a dumpster.
Oh wow!
From a neighboring studio. That was audio tape.
Oh, probably from Batman.
Maybe, yeah. So yeah, that was the first trailer cut for the Cabal cut when Russell sent us that link.
Yes, right.
The trailer was basically an extended cut of this flashback. And that's the first time I ever saw any of the Cabal cut.
I have to admit that for school projects, I really horribly overused that scene. Every time I would have some kind of school video, I would put that scene in there to sort of depict hell, or
oh wow,
and just to shock people and make the teachers angry.
I'm sure that worked wonderfully.
yeah, it did.
There was a preliminary version of Decker's mask that was much more insane looking. It had this kind of wispy hair on the top, and the mouth was more to the side. It was really creepy. And in the picture, like, Decker was holding, like, it wasn't Cronenberg. It was like an effects guy, but he had like these two knives crossed over his chest, and he's just like, it looked like the person from Munch's Scream.
Oh yeah, wow.
Is that why you hate him so much? I'm not one of them.
And here is all that explanation about why he does what he does.
Yeah. Well, and it is an interesting insight into his character, because obviously Grinnell knows that this is the same guy that just came and asked to use the telephone, because, I mean, who else would it be?
Right.
But he still is wearing a mask anyway,
right.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think he puts on the mask so he doesn't feel the responsibility of what he does sometimes.
Yeah.
He can just blame it on the mask. It's like, it's not me, it's the mask. This death scene, funny or not funny?
I used to think it was
Disturbing.
funny. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
now I think it's disturbing. I think when I was a teenager, I thought it was funny. Like, then don't say it.
Because that's just his matter-of-fact way he says it.
Yeah.
You know, that little creature has a name. His name is Barabbas. Yeah, that little creature eating the mouse is Barabbas. It was supposed to be cute and steal Laurie's earring. You know,
Oh,
you
that's
can
right.
still read that in some scripts. And that work was done by Rory Fellows, and it was shot by his longtime collaborator, Carl Watkins.
I think that creature shows up again, right? It's like up on the ceiling somewhere.
Yeah. I do recommend this article on Revelations called The Making of Nightbreed, an entirely personal memoir, where Rory Fellows talks about his work.
Oh, that is
And
cool.
how some of the stop motion creatures were taken out of the movie because one of the producers, I think it was David Barron, he thought they looked like Fraggle Rock.
Oh, that's harsh. Yeah,
That's a miniature set.
that's
there.
too bad. I mean, I think that people not only forgive that, but they love it. I mean, I thought my favorite thing about RoboCop 2 was the stop motion, the stop motion character
Robot,
of Kane.
yeah.
Yeah. And like Ed 209.
Right. And the RoboCop 2 guy that they made with the brain
Yeah.
of the drug.
Yeah, Kane.
yeah.
Kane's bugging me.
At first, they had set up 35 creatures to animate, but then work stopped when they started doing storyboards for about 12 of those.
Oh.
And it got cut down to 9 because they didn't have enough money.
And we got, I think the first thing we saw of stop motion was Diodara and Mezek Mul, right? It was revealed in the work print footage at the Horror Hound, and Phil and Sarah put out a teaser little short video of it.
For the Cabal cut, yeah, that was
Yeah.
the probably the first time I ever saw extra stop motion animation. Yeah, these two guys, I think they're part of the reshoots. Leroy Gom and Devil Lude.
Right, because you only see them together. You hardly ever see them with any other Nightbreed around.
And also that guy on stilts that shows up and just goes like, "Oh!" His name is Benoit Moto,
Yeah.
and he was made by Martin Mercer, who designed and created the Berserkers.
And he was repurposed, right, from
Vasti Moses.
Vasti Moses, right? And which just shows what a great job they did, because you can't really tell. There's Vasti Moses, and they look so different from each other. You would never know that.
That's actually something else. I think it was called a Thrall.
Oh, okay.
It's a breed that took so many drugs that he kind of forgot the shape of his body. Yeah,
I'm mixing up my Nightbreed.
it's okay. They're so different, and some of them share the same kind of makeups. You know, they would just apply the prosthetic pieces to someone else and just paint them differently. You know, they had about 200 creatures for this entire movie.
Wow, yeah. And there's Toxic Avenger.
I know you. He's talked about you,
Here's Peliquin.
Laurie.
Nobody puts baby on a corner.
Nice. You're still a natural.
Peliquin is cool. He's got really good lines, but he's sort of the Boba Fett of Nightbreed, I think, because you know that he would be really awesome in a fight, but you really never get to see what he can do.
I agree. He's kind of like the Wolverine that Clive Barker created for the Nightbreed.
Yeah. But he just gets hit by a truck.
Yeah. And here's Baphomet,
Okay, Decker, what do you got?
who Baphomet was done by Jeff Portis and Steve Painter. They put a lot of fiber optics in there.
Very cool. And so different from the novel, because in the novel he was like a fire with body parts kind of flinging around up and down.
Your neck? No.
Yeah, and then Clive wasn't sure of how they were going to do that as an effect. And one day he stopped by the office and told Jeff, I figured it out. I had a dream. Here it is. And he drew him on a big A1 page. And that's what he came up with.
It's kind of like he turned to stone so that he could heal himself over time.
Here we see Captain Eigerman, played by Charles Hayde. And I first saw Charles Hayde's work in Hill Street Blues, where he played Renko.
We also got to see him. He was a guest at that Nightbreed screening, the director's cut screening in 2014 at the Crest Westwood.
That's right.
So he came out and talked. And there's some Nightbreed we don't normally see.
Hey, that's that family that got changed by a meteor.
Yeah. Oh, there's that Barnabas, right?
Oh, yeah, there he is. So Captain Eigerman, Charles Hayde had seen a documentary about Klaus Barbie where he said, I am the son of the Eiger. And that's how he kind of based his idea on how he should play Eigerman. You know, his office had a lot of stuff put in it that either didn't make the shot or you just can't make it out. But on the desk, there was supposed to be a little plaster bust of Adolf Hitler, copies of American Survival and the Gun Digest, and everything is super neat. And on the wall, there were supposed to be pictures on display with frame photos of Nixon, Reagan, Hitler, and Margaret Thatcher. And then, of course, that giant photo of himself.
It seems like sometimes they forget that this is supposed to be in Canada.
Yeah. His office was a production office in L Block of Pinewood Studios. That's where they filmed most of the interiors.
It is kind of hilarious that Eigerman has a great big framed photo of himself on the wall.
Right, because he's kind of a narcissist.
Yeah. I love this parrot. I want to know what his name is.
She just walked past that parrot 5 minutes ago.
Maybe he's following her.
And she looked into that thing 5 minutes ago, too.
The parrot can teleport.
Yeah.
And this one, oh wait. Yeah, that's Three Flies, right? That particular Nightbreed right there on the wall.
Oh, that's right. That's the one that never took a bath after she hugged the last member of her tribe, because she thinks that the cells of her tribe's people are still on her skin.
Yeah.
And one day they'll just sprout out of her like plants. All this stuff comes from the Nightbreed Chronicles. It's just amazing. Oh, there it is. Narcisse and his corpse bride.
You have to wonder how much of this was ad-libbed. I think we talked a little bit to Hugh Ross about that, but I can't remember what he'd said.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We'd have to go back and listen to the episode, which I urge people to do.
Yeah?
It's a pretty crazy scene. Narcisse is such a powerhouse. He's really intense.
If you search in podcasts for Clive Barker in iTunes or wherever, you'll find us. We're the Clive Barker Podcast.
Mad bastards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny that he sort of expects her to take him seriously, but he's dancing around with and talking to this corpse. It's like, well, this is kind of goofy, but you really shouldn't go down to see the Berserkers.
I composited a bunch of frames from the movie, and I made like a composite image of Hugh Ross holding the bride, and then I posted it on Occupy Midian, maybe in 2012 or 2013 for Valentine's Day, and that got a lot of likes.
I remember that.
Yeah, sailors.
Yeah.
Onaka was always terrified that the angels would return to tattoo him on the inside as well as out.
And the reason that he explodes in the sun is because the angels never wanted God to find out that they had tattooed him like that.
Yeah. So here's Shine, Slaughter, and Ghost. Some of the 6 Berserker suits that were made for this movie.
Slaughter, come and get me. He says...
There was some miniature work done here. An animatronic head for one of the Berserkers. And Nicholas Vince played Ghost on a few shots. This was all the work of Paul Jones when he was very young, maybe 18, working for Image Animation. Mm-hmm. He had to make these 6 suits, so Martin Mercer helped him with that. Because it was too much work for him, and he was just getting started.
It is kind of interesting that there's a lot of importance placed on this conversation that Boone had with with Baphomet, but we don't really ever know what they talked about during this part.
I guess they're just communing spiritually.
Yeah. But it's important enough to go rescue him from the police station.
Sure. Because he might have told them something that would help save Midian. So I just wanted to say, Jeff Bordas said to me yesterday that Steve Painter and him sculpted the full-size sections for Baphomet, and they both spent 3 months getting glass cuts from the fiber optic cables put into it.
Oh,
Not to mention the burns from the hot glue. So that's how long it took to make Baphomet, about 3 months.
And Peliquin just said, "Guess he can't take the heat," which I always thought was kind of unfair. If nobody else can talk to Baphomet without dying, I think it's pretty amazing feat that he's still alive.
Yeah.
And we passed Vasti Moses, the real one this time.
Yeah, and also that scene where he says he can't take the heat. There was an extended conversation on the script between Shuna and Peliquin. And then that's where Shuna says that Boone is the seventh savior.
Yes, right.
And there was also when they found out the footage to make the director's cut, and they put out some pictures, and some of those were from Shuna Sassy frolicking around in her boudoir with Peliquin, and you can see that footage
Snakes
now.
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, you can see that footage in the director's cut extras. Shuna's dancing while holding onto a rope, and Peliquin was just handling snakes in the bed.
And people always thought, it was the big sex scene that got left out of the movie, but I think the reality of it is that it was a bunch of stuff shot to go behind that title card.
Oh, here's more reshoots.
Yeah.
I think it works in the way that it shows us how Decker operates. You know,
Yeah.
that this Decker acts differently than in the book. He doesn't use any guns, and he could just come in any space with people and just slash them.
And this is another genuinely scary scene that, helps establish this as a horror movie. But it always kind of bugged me the way he stabs her in the stomach. It seems like that could go right through her and into him.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right, because it's a big knife.
Yeah.
I think he knows what he's doing.
Arnie!
It's just typical guy through the hole in the table.
Yeah.
Yoink.
Yeah, but it's way more realistic than any model head that they could have come up with. And so now they're back in Boone's truck again. It seems like somebody was saying that was some kind of continuity error because they drove back in Boone's truck.
Oh gosh, I'm not even going to start with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't make any sense, but 99.99% of the people don't really pay attention to that. Like, oh, that's Boone's truck is a Ford F-100. Sure, you can look at it with that detail, but ultimately it's a movie, so
Yeah.
you're going to be unraveling the reality of the film.
I love the way this is shot, where we're looking at this hole behind her back, this hole in the wall behind her back, the whole time, while she's changing.
Yeah, it is pretty obvious.
But it takes her a while to notice it.
Is that a peephole that someone is doing, and then she looks in and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
something completely different.
Yeah. And I love how long it takes her to notice it. I think it's pretty realistic, though.
See her pupil like dilate just a tiny bit.
Yeah. And Decker took enough time to build a house of cards, which is really hard. I don't know if you've ever tried to do that, but
I always thought that this was meant to show that Decker came in there and killed those people so swiftly that there wasn't even a fight, and the card castle was made by the people that he killed.
oh wow, maybe, yeah, or maybe he's mocking them and built a house of cards himself. I don't know. I mean,
That was the second appearance of Craig Spector and John Skipp. There are two of the corpses there.
oh, and they were at the concert.
There was an interesting counterpoint about the Nightbreed being hated by humans, but if you think about it, during this Buffalo Days rodeo, the people of Sheer Neck are all putting on these horn hats, which kind of makes them look like they're half beast themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Holy moly, the Sheer Neck police has a SWAT team?
Yeah, I know. They sure don't seem that well organized in later on.
Right. I like that one of them has his hat on backwards.
And in HD, you get a really good view of Boone's makeup and the designs in it. I love that.
Oh, man. So it's a great makeup.
Yeah.
They used kind of elements from Maori and Pacific Islander kind of markings.
And here at this point, Boone is kind of giving up on himself and just doesn't want to live anymore. He doesn't care if the police take him away or not because he's discovered himself eating human blood.
He is pretty disgusted with himself.
Yeah.
He's kind of lost in this like man-beast kind of state.
And why does Ashbury have his door open? I always wondered that too. It's like, if he could just leave, why doesn't he?
I think he's just meant to be a guy in the drunk tank.
Yeah.
He's probably a regular customer of the Sheer Neck police station.
Yeah, and they know that he's not going to fight or do anything to escape, so who cares if his door's
Right.
open or not?
Yeah, he's a priest. He's just
Yeah.
lost his way, the poor son of a bitch.
Did you ever try to squeeze your hand like that to see if you could actually damage your palm with your fingernails?
Not really. Can't say I have.
I would try to do that, but I could never do it hard enough to really do anything like even close to that.
You know, these jail cells were actually makeup rooms for image animation.
Oh,
That's right.
wow.
And Ashbury had a secret in the novel.
Right.
They don't really mention it in any of the versions that we've seen of the movie, but in the book, Eigerman says that Ashbury likes to wear women's underwear.
Yeah, it's only hinted at by him, his calling him a faggot.
Oh, there's the little Adolf Hitler bust right there.
Oh, wow.
I just saw it.
Crazy. I mean, nowadays, if somebody had something like that in their office, they would be fired.
This is just an orgy of evidence that Eigerman is a fascist.
Yeah.
Eigerman, he was right about the motel. So what? So maybe there are others.
What are you talking about? Monsters?
A cult. I don't know. We should check it out.
You want to go out there?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go out there. Bettine,
Yo, Chief.
you and some of the boys take Inspector Joyce here out to Midian. When you get out there, look around that graveyard. If you see anything with more than two eyes.
Yeah, he's just making fun of Joyce. He doesn't want his cooperation. It's like, oh, if you see anything with more than two eyes, even though Joyce had just said maybe it's a cult, he didn't say it's a bunch of monsters.
Looks okay to me.
You know, in the book, in the novel Cabal, I don't think there was a beatdown scene.
Oh, yeah.
But there's certainly a scene where the doctor tells one of the police officers or Eigerman that Boone is dead. He just looks so shocked. He doesn't even question that, oh, maybe there's something wrong with my, my stethoscope. He just immediately thinks the guy's dead and he just leaves.
Well, he did check his pulse on his wrist with his hands too.
Does that answer your question?
Cannibalism.
Sounds like that, doesn't it, sweetheart?
I love his sarcasm here.
Yeah.
That was shot down at Midian 4 days ago.
This is hilarious. He's so stupid and unprepared that he didn't even realize that it was the same prisoner, even though Joyce came from Calgary and said he was his prisoner, and it was national news, and people have been looking for Midian because of it.
Right, even the guy from the bar tells Laurie,
Yeah.
30 shots to bag that sucker.
Yeah.
I think maybe Joyce and Decker are keeping Eigerman on a need-to-know basis. Maybe they didn't tell him it was Aaron Boone.
Yeah. Nobody knew holding a prisoner could be so complicated.
Are you saying he's dead?
Walking around my figgin' cell, Dad.
That's right. In the comic books, they say figgin instead of fucking.
You see that Sheer Neck grocery?
Oh yeah.
Actually, there's a funny thing. when they were doing recording interiors at the production office at L Block in Pinewood, near the Pinewood timber storage hangars, someone put a sign that says Sheer Neck Lumber.
Oh, wow.
And opposite from that was Image Animation's workshop.
This really should not have been cut out of the theatrical cut.
I agree. It's totally out of the novel.
Yeah.
In the novel, she went back after she feels like lost and confused about what's going on. She escapes Boone after she sees him eat human flesh. And then she goes to that burnout restaurant where she was supposed to meet Decker with Sherilyn.
Oh,
And then when she walks into the burned down restaurant, she passes through an archway, and all of a sudden she sees herself in Midian.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
So it's a better transition than just her sitting in her car.
And the conversations here between Joyce and these other police really are more overt, like, oh, if they're different, that's enough reason to kill them. And, you know, and it's kind of not said outright, but it's kind of, but you kind of think that he's thinking, well, okay, so, you know, this has echoes of racism.
Oh, certainly, yeah. And you saw more Nightbreed back there, these shots.
What do you say, Inspector? Let's just...
You know, those tombs, I would say those tombs are made to bury people who believed in different deities. Because you see,
Yeah.
like, snake heads and
Yeah.
horned demons and hands and stuff like that.
Gargoyles, yeah.
Yeah. Poor Onaka.
Yeah.
His death is amazing. The burned makeup is so realistic. And Joyce is starting to show a little compassion, more than the
Yeah.
policeman from Sheer Neck.
No, yeah, they're just like, oh, no, this is not a human. I don't want it touching me. That's all they care about. And in the comic adaptation, they even shot him a few times.
So meanwhile, Babette is showing Laurie what's going on through her eyes.
Yeah. Although Joyce pulling his shoe back is pretty cold.
You can see there for just one frame, the mannequin right before it explodes.
Oh.
Yeah, but that score just fills me up with sorrow for poor Onaka.
Yeah. So when she says, I have to get help, what do you think she was going to do? Or what do you think she had in mind? I've been curious about that.
That is an excellent point.
Who could she possibly go to?
Maybe she was thinking about going back to Midian and try to find Lylesburg.
Yeah. But they already know what's going on.
Just until it goes down.
Going back to Eigerman too, I thought it was kind of funny in the novel. He had a long sort of interior monologue while he's sitting on the toilet about how people have all their best ideas while they're sitting on the toilet, and all the world leaders should gather around sitting on toilets to negotiate and stuff.
That makes some sense, I guess, if you're Eigerman, since he's so full of it.
Yeah.
And we just saw that car is a very dirty 1954 Vauxhall Wyvern.
Mm.
I finally found out the make of that car. So this is where it starts becoming a little more silly here, because obviously Eigerman is a simple man, and he just thinks he wants to go in there with God on his side, even if it's a drunk lost sheep like Ashbury.
It's really, maybe, he probably does. I mean, he doesn't seem to really give a crap about religion. It's just more of a, more of a show.
Oh, here's the scene with Kane in the armory.
Yeah.
You know, there was an article that we posted on our blog. I think it was Rob that did the work for that. He contacted, or he got contacted by the actor who played Kane, and he wrote an open letter about his experience doing this movie. And then Clive saw our blog post and posted a reply to Kane.
Yeah. Yeah, one of those really neat kind of moments that makes me really happy about what we do in our podcast and stuff. Not that this is a big advertisement for us, but
He loves those guns so much.
yeah, well, and his scene in the theatrical cut was really just cut down to, getting shot in the eye by Shunasasi or whatever, and that's it.
Yeah, and this brief appearance in this scene.
Yeah. Right, but here he's got a long speaking part.
Yeah, he does. He's just in love with those guns. Those crates had a logo stamped on it for the Sons of the Free, which I'm guessing is a militia. And you can also see some T-shirts with that logo when the whole posse goes into Midian to put traps and gasoline. Some of the guys have T-shirts with the Sons of the Free logo.
And this, I think that the VHS footage serves this scene really well because it looks like found footage, sort of documentary style.
Yeah,
Reminds me of Night of the Living Dead.
It's definitely made to make us dislike them even more.
Yeah, I know, God.
I'm surprised that Clive didn't include some guy eating an apple on camera just to make him look like more of a jerk.
Yeah. See that guy, like, spitting his beer all over people?
I want to make a joke about those red hats, but I'm not going to do it.
What? Yeah, they're so happy. It seems like they should be a little bit afraid.
Well, they got their hunting buddies with them. For them,
Yeah.
it's a party. They
Yeah.
got booze, they got guns. They got God on their side.
Yeah.
So in the novel, Rachel wasn't really in the car. It was just Narcisse. And he looked much worse because in the book, he tears out his actual face, not just his scalp.
Yeah.
He has to convince Laurie to get in the car.
Which is hard when you don't have a face.
But I think here, Rachel was used to very good effect. It allows Laurie to trust Narcisse more and get in the car. So it kind of quickens the pace here.
And that's the scene where she's voiced by Vicky Barker. Clive's niece. Or his nephew's wife. So is that like an in-law?
Here's Igerman offering a gun, and Decker says, "I wouldn't know what to do with it."
Yeah.
Well, you certainly know your way around a gun in the novel.
Yeah.
So the Midianites, actually the Midianites are in the Bible. They were the sons of Midian, who was one of Abraham's sons.
I don't believe in the devil.
Oh, but you will.
Yeah, go on, give it to him, huh?
Yeah.
So these guys are just keeping the police station running on a skeleton crew.
Yeah, and they're getting drunk already. I mean, they're terrible, except for Ray right there in the corner. He's the only one who's doing his job. The rest of these guys are just a bunch of incompetent morons.
Something to blow your brains out?
Yeah. And in the novel, right here, this guy shoots himself in the foot, and we think it probably happened right there, but you can't tell.
Narcisse is so cool.
Yeah.
He's got the black Ray-Bans on, and he's got
Yeah.
the straw hat. And there's that iconic shot there.
Yeah.
Where he says, "I love
The
a coward." I love it. I love
Yeah.
this part so much.
Poor Ray.
Here for Rachel's smoke effect, I found out some more stuff from the effects artists. It involved reproducing that whole door set, and they had an oversized keyhole where they were pumping in the smoke. And then there was kind of a box full of smoke that was it was the door.
Oh.
And then there was a hinged door cut in Rachel's shape. So it was supposed to like swing open and the smoke would come out in the shape of a person.
Oh.
And then they would combine it optically with a shot of Catherine Chevalier walking.
Huh.
I think that effect was simplified in editing here, though.
Yeah, I think so too. You don't really get to see it that well. I mean, it really just looks like she was just blinked in, on the camera.
There's sleazeball Narcisse looking
Yeah.
down.
Naughty, naughty.
I want you to wait out here.
Yeah, and some of these cops are still alive out there in the lobby.
So this scene is longer, and had more sex in the book.
But this is still longer than the theatrical cut, and it's really important. Laurie convincing Boone that he's important and that they need each other.
I don't think so.
Yeah, she experienced the fear of death, and she decides monsters are forever, and she can, if she decides to live in that fantastic world, it'll make her life more interesting, and
They can't kill you.
so she wants to see more of it.
And this conversation is also one of 2 times in the movie where Laurie sort of uses a threat of her own death to motivate Boone.
Yeah.
You can't die.
It's like, I'll just stay here and they'll come and kill us both.
Midian needs.
In the car, when she talks to Narcisse, she has to work through some of her feelings about Boone being dead and possibly a cannibal.
Yeah.
And I think this is where she finally makes her decision that she still loves Boone. Once she puts her eyes on him, she kind of knows.
You can't give up on us.
It might have been different if he had really killed all those families.
I wish I was.
Oh, yeah. Do you think?
No, Liz. I'm not afraid of you. I still want you.
And there was a scene in one of the scripts
Whatever you are.
when they start making love in the cell, and Narcisse looks in and says, "That guy does it better dead than I did alive."
Yeah.
I love that.
If they come for you, I'll just let them.
I think that probably Clive realized that there's no time for them to have sex in the middle of this jail cell with the cops that are still alive out in the lobby.
Right, that makes sense.
I don't want to be dust.
That seemed a little, I wouldn't say contrived, but a little forced in the book,
Yeah.
that they would have time to do that. But they certainly have time to reconcile and, smooch around a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a bracelet I saw.
No time for hoochie coochie.
No time for hoochie coochie. Narcisse, you're a cock blocker. Oh, I think it's also important because here his animal side kind of rises up.
Yeah.
And she sees it, and instead of being afraid of it, she kind of feels more turned on by it.
Yeah, she embraces it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, well, I'm just going to smoke a cigarette.
Are we going? Yeah. No hurry.
I love Narcisse. I really do.
It's time we saw the truth.
Does he say it's time they saw the truth?
I think so.
It's a little quiet. And it's a
Yeah,
new, it's a new
unfortunately,
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you see that Joyce starts to have some doubts. Hey, who would have thought that he would be uncomfortable with genocide, right?
Yeah.
He says maybe they're just different, and this guy says, isn't that enough reason?
Yeah.
For me, that's kind of the origin of tragedy, It's like
Yeah.
people that don't accept difference anymore. You're not with me, you're against me.
Yeah.
We can really achieve a lot when we learn from other cultures and
Yeah.
work together, celebrate our differences, like I said, rather than just waste time legislating around different groups of people.
Yeah. Yeah, in some ways this is kind of a timeless theme for Nightbreed.
Yeah, the people who are creative and different and artistic, or they're from a dying breed or race
Yeah.
or small minority of people. And then there's the reactionaries who just want to normalize everything and be like, no, I don't like you. You shouldn't be here. I don't want to
Yeah.
have to see you or look at you. I don't even want to share a bathroom with you.
Yeah, right. I mean, in this movie, it's more overt and they're caricatures almost, but in real life, there's a lot of subtle shades of this kind of racism and bigotry and stuff and fear.
Yeah. So I always wondered, why aren't more Nightbreed acting to prevent the posse from going in there? That's kind of...
I was thinking that too. It's like maybe Lylesburg's fault because they have an opportunity here to sabotage what these guys are doing. They're setting bombs all over their exits, And there could have been people out there, sniping them. Shunasasi could kill 3 people in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I think they didn't do that because they were kind of following this kind of trope.
Yeah.
Which is that that they don't do anything by day, that they only live by night. Their name is Nightbreed. So I think that comes from the stereotype of the vampire.
Right.
But Narcisse and Rachel are out there.
Yeah, and in reality, there's a bunch of them that can do stuff during the day.
Yeah, they're not vampires that need to retreat into their alcoves or coffins. I mean, even Babette does more to help by warning Laurie of what's going on than Lylesburg seems to do about it.
Yeah, Lylesburg just wants everybody to just kind of hide and not do anything.
Yeah. So there's Kane again.
Yeah.
Watch out. That does not seem like a wise thing to do with so many drunk people walking around.
Yeah, I know.
They should have shown like one of the Sons of the Free blowing himself up accidentally. So Ashbury's arc, again, it's much longer in this cut. Yeah. I think you see him come to terms with what the Nightbreed are and how this is basically genocide.
Yeah.
In the theatrical, I think he just walked around looking kind of lost, and then he tries to touch Baphomet's blood.
Yeah, and here he does have a much longer, more complex arc. I mean, first he's like, "Hey, we're desecrating a graveyard. That's bad." Then he's like, "Okay, these are just regular people that aren't fighting back. What are we doing?" Then it's like, "Now, then you're killing children." Then he sees miraculous stuff, and he's getting converted.
Yeah, he thinks they're angels and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the mask saying, "I want to be free."
Yeah. Yeah, taken out of the Cabal. I mean the director's cut.
Yeah, you see more of the mask talking in this, and it kind of shows Decker here a little reluctant about killing Joyce, which I think it's, like I said, maybe he's trying to excuse himself a bit from his own actions.
Yeah.
Like it's the mask that's making him do it. He's like, I don't want to do it.
Oh.
And funny enough, he doesn't really chase Joyce. I mean, I'm pretty sure he could have just finished them off.
So the theatrical cut and the director's cut both have Joyce get his throat slit at that moment. But the Cabal cut has always followed the Joyce's arc, the Joyce's storyline a little better because of that, we also get to see the character of Toledo later on.
Oh, you see that? I heard that surprise on Decker's face was a real, genuine reaction by Cronenberg when they blew that setup.
Oh, because he wasn't prepared?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep, the destruction of Midian. That I mentioned Paul Jones said that it was cathartic. By the end of the shoot, after the reshoots and seeing the movie change so much and production was kind of falling apart around the story, 7 weeks into the shoot, Christopher Figg was a producer for this movie, and he just kind of said, I quit. I don't want to be a producer of this movie anymore.
Oh, wow.
They just left. Yeah.
That's kind of too bad. They probably could have used him to stay on and fight for it,
Yeah, everyone was just tired. I think they felt that the work hadn't been given the proper treatment.
Yeah.
Bob Keane said it on Making Monsters featurette that it was a mind fuck.
Mm.
I think now most of that has been fixed and healed, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's happy with this now. That lady holding a baby, her name was Chocolat.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful makeup there, yeah. There she is. She shows up in the Boom comics, the Nightbreed comics.
Yeah. Yes, they go into her backstory pretty well.
I like the way Boone steps up to the challenge here and kind of becomes the counterpoint to Eigerman,
Yeah. And takes over as the leader, where Lylesburg is really ineffectual.
And he says, it's time to fight. And they cut to Eigerman says, it's time. So as one general is ready to kill and the other one is ready to defend, Yeah. It's like the rise of the underdog.
And Lylesburg's performance is so much better now with Doug Bradley's voice.
Oh, yes. Again, more talking mask, I think.
Yeah. It's really fast right here. Like, there she is.
Yeah. I guess they didn't have a lot of sound for that part.
Yeah, or the scene was so short that the ADR, they had to squeeze it in really fast. There she is, Fisher. She's the only one who knows. That is a really good point, Narcisse. I mean,
Gee, thanks.
Is this wise bringing them above ground? Well, that is where all the people with guns are.
Oh, Pelican.
Yeah, that is cool. Unfortunately, I really wanted him to start fighting people up there. And it just didn't happen.
Oh, no.
And Russell Charrington had the dummy that they ran over with that truck, right? Didn't he?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Like a bust or a dummy or something like
Yeah.
that, yeah. That's a miniature set.
He is limping there, and in the comic adaptation, Lylesburg had a broken leg, which is why it took him so long to get over to release the Berserkers. So I wonder if he does here, and it's just, they just don't talk about it.
That's a good attention to detail there. Oh, Besoa the Pale.
Yeah. This is so cool.
Yeah.
Ashbury is discovering the Nightbreed for the first time, and of course, he's one of the ones who's not worthy. We don't really know exactly why he's not worthy, though. Maybe just Baphomet was in a bad mood.
I like the way that the breed are just looking at him like they're just curious animals or something.
Yeah. Well, it's like, well, he doesn't have a gun, I guess.
Right.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I first saw that originally in the Cabal cut, and it makes this scene so much more poignant, and Ashbury's character more, is non-trivial.
That blue-faced lady there, she's actually Stephen Jones's sister. Stephen Jones was a publicist for Hellraiser movies and Nightbreed, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Lizzie B? Or is it different?
No, a blue-faced lady that just showed up in the... Yeah. Did you say that, like, Pelican was the Boba Fett of Nightbreed?
Yeah, I think so, because he could do so much, in the way of fighting, but he looks cool, and he doesn't really get the chance.
Yeah, I see him kind of like a tank for the Nightbreed. He's like Wolverine,
Yeah. Yeah, but
didn't Clive say that he wanted the sequels of Nightbreed to feature them as kind of these sort of X-Men-like characters?
Yeah, that would be cool.
I think you mentioned that once. Did you see that shot? That shot, you can see the person hiding behind the
rock.
The headstone is wearing a wet blanket on his head.
Oh. Yeah.
This attack on Midian went on forever in that version you saw, right?
Yeah,
that early version.
It was like 40 minutes.
Yeah, there was a scene with two guys over a bridge with their legs hanging out, just shooting breed like ducks in a barrel. I don't think that's in this one.
There was a Nightbreed that was jumping around like he was on trampolines or something, like all in white.
Oh, I see. You know what's crazy about this whole sequence? Is that they had to shoot this at night, and because Pinewood Studio was close to local housing, they couldn't shoot anything past midnight.
Oh, jeez. So it's like, oh, you only got 4 hours today.
Right. They also shot a lot of this assault on Midian inside Pinewood's F stage for 3 weeks. Where he said at the end of the shoot, everybody was coughing up black balls.
Oh, because of all the dust in the air?
Yeah. Oh, there's the guy with the scope.
Yeah. So I think his voice kind of sounds like Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime. And I kind of wonder if he'd been ADR'd, if that voice actor ADR'd over the top of him. When he says, yo, Moses.
Yeah.
Watch the pretty lights.
And I think it is the same guy. Yeah, that's the same guy that we see shoot Lylesburg.
Yeah, it is.
Oh goodness, this is a slaughter.
So this does capture the sort of Holocaust feel of the original Cabal cut.
Yeah.
But I think it was a little much for people. It was so long.
40 minutes. I think this final edited version looks much tighter.
It was 40 minutes, and most of it all looked like this. With it was hard to make out what was going on because of it was all VHS footage.
I like that they use the same cue from the flashback, same musical cue. It goes on in a kind of a bit of a loop, but there's a theme to that that's like...
There's those guys, yeah. But there was a lot more of it. I mean, they were just sitting there. Yeah, I guess there's quite a bit.
There they are.
Yeah. Horrible. I mean, see how many Nightbreed get killed. And you kind of wonder at the end, all the ones who were in the barn, are they the only ones left alive?
Maybe others escaped into the night. At least I'd like to think so.
Me too.
There were some other characters that were cut out. The third appearance of Craig Spector and John Skipp and Peter Atkins, who actually did second unit for a lot of these shots. They show up as the Cycle Slut Sisters during one of those scenes under Midian, where they were dressed up with makeup and dresses and jewelry. So that was cut from the movie, but you can see some of that on Revelations, the website.
Yeah, so that's the only clue that we have that he was a cross-dresser was just this name that Eigerman calls him, which, nobody would know that if they hadn't read the book.
Very true. And here you see, what does Boone say here? I think he just calls out Eigerman.
No, he says, "I can hear you," I think. Because he said, "Sorry, Padre, no one can hear you," when he was praying.
Oh, okay, I got it. I thought he was saying Eigerman, but I couldn't understand what he was saying afterwards.
I have to see. Take me
I have to see. I have to know.
Yeah. That being overly curious does not ever help anybody in a Clive Barker story.
I'll get back to you on that.
Your people need you. He's going to destroy us all. The naturals, the breed, Midian.
So here's poor Lylesburg.
Take a look for yourself.
And I always wondered if it was done today, probably that optical effect would be a little better. It'd be more like a little nuclear explosion, I guess.
Oh, yeah, probably. Well, and if this movie was made today, the Berserkers would be ripping people in half and, smacking their heads off and stuff.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
But you know what? I love this movie a lot because of the practical effects that go into it. It just gives it I want to use the word verisimilitude.
Yeah.
And it's just because it looks real. It doesn't look like something animated and then composited onto the image,
This scene right here, it's like, well, that guy would have just probably shot him. I don't think he would wait around to see what these things are in his stomach.
Right. Just like, there's the fire filmed in reverse, because they were doing, they were doing a scene with the animatronic eels, but they were shooting in reverse, so you can see the fire burning in reverse.
And who is that guy they just shot? I mean, he looks like a banker or something.
Yeah, it's like some Nightbreed wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Well, some of the Nightbreed turned out to be normal people that just something happened to them that changed their lives, and it just made them alien to their society. Like,
seemed like a lot of Nightbreed were that way.
Yeah, like a person would get a skin graft on their face, and then the skin graft belonged to someone who was a Nightbreed, and it would just start creating this other face on their face.
Yeah.
Of course, here's Shuna Sassy.
Yeah. And if she could just throw one quill, I mean, think how deadly she would be. She could probably take out almost all these guys by herself.
Right, yeah.
She doesn't need to shoot Kane with like 10 of them or whatever. She really only needs to do one.
I love the way she moves, because Chris McCorkindale, who we also had on the podcast, she was a dancer when she was cast as Shuna. She had the background of a dancer so she could move her body in any way she chooses. And she knows how to dance, which is kind of what Shuna is doing there. She's kind of dancing around them.
Yo, Moses.
Oh, there's my key.
Pretty light. Yeah. Wait for it.
That thing is pretty heavy. The chain, mostly.
Yeah.
Because the actual... this might sound like a disappointment to some people, but yes, props are made just to look good on camera. They're not made to last.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, the medallion key is made out of PVC piping with some
Oh, yeah.
with some clay stuff painted over it. So basically, it's just very cheap stuff. But it looks good, and it's cool, and it's a part of movie history for me. So
Yeah. Hopefully you can bring it back to the U.S. at some point. Yeah.
it's still back in Portugal.
Yay! Here comes Diadara and Mezek Mool.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
There's just a problem for me with this scene in regards to getting the sense of scale from that. I can't see it. It just looks like a small thing, you know?
Because they don't put them together in the same shot.
Right. So Lylesburg's makeup, created by Mark Coulier, who also brought Shuna Sassy to life.
Wow.
Oh, here are the
Yeah. Uh-oh.
berserkers. See, one of them is holding a rack of ribs.
Oh, wow.
Go get 'em, boys!
Yeah.
Yes, they put that shot back in. I love it.
Yeah.
A lot of people complained about it from the director's cut that they cut that out, but oops, talking about cuts.
Yeah, poor Narcisse. I mean, he didn't even fight back. All he did was growl.
That's another one of the characters that he does die in the book, but not in some versions of the script, and definitely not in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a big deal to just change like the story of a character that dies and say, well, you're not going to die.
Yeah, it's like, oh, everybody, you tested really well, so we're going to keep you alive for the ending of the movie.
Right. Just like Joyce. Oh, I love this sequence here.
Yeah.
She kind of wanders into the Wall of Prophecy and she finds Peliquin.
I don't understand this line, that doesn't make him yours. It seems like she really is misunderstanding what he's trying to say.
That's Boone.
I guess she means that he doesn't have the power of life and death over Boone, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe she thinks that he's blaming Boone and he wants to do something about it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make him yours.
So like I said, there's plenty of paintings on the Wall of Prophecy that
Yeah.
represent moments that we saw happen in the film.
And there's one final painting of on the Wall of Prophecy that was made specifically for the directors and the Cabal cut.
Yeah, it was reconstructed out of other small shots of Laurie and Boone standing on the hill. I love the Berserkers.
Yeah.
In the Nightbreed Chronicles, they were said to have been these mystical creatures created to fight. Oh, that's Little John. That's actually a male effects artist.
Yeah. They were World War I experiments.
Right, except they just killed as many of the friendly troops as the enemy. Unsurprisingly.
They were German.
Oh no! Guy on a flamethrower is gonna blow up!
Yeah. It's kind of funny that he screams after he explodes.
You know, in any movie with lots of effects, there always has to be some sort of burn guy.
Yeah.
You know, Ralph McQuarrie came in halfway through production to make that wall, the Wall of Prophecy. Oh, there it is. You see this guy and the blonde woman in the car?
Yeah.
In some versions of the script, there would be a posse member making out with a blonde woman inside the car before it's flipped over by
and
the
she
berserkers.
just kind of disappeared out of the truck. Did she get out?
That's
maybe?
right. Yeah, that it feels like they just cut it with other different parts.
Yeah.
Different shots. Yeah, you still see that, but you don't see them inside doing the hanky-panky.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being that guy? They shove him into a coffin and nail it shut.
He seems to be pretty cooperative in this sequence.
There's also a little bit of a goof right here, because when they flip the coffin over, the lid will spill open. Here in just a second. It's like, whoops.
Oh, I see. There it is. Yeah. It's
and then this is like, he's kind of asking for that. So.
By the way, still about the berserkers. I like how they're these like American football players. You know, they got big shoulder pads and stuff. Oh, look, there's Toledo.
Yeah. So in the director's cut, they decided to go the route where Laurie rescues Babette in this scene because they thought that was more powerful because of their connection. So for that, they had to give up this scene and have Joyce die. And then we lose Toledo.
Have we ever seen this footage before? Because I don't remember seeing it.
Maybe in HD with no sound. I'm not sure. It was definitely in the Cabal cut and the VHS footage.
Hi, I'm Narcisse, and this is Jackass.
Yeah. And that line, "You can die," is a little hard to hear.
Yeah, but that's basically why we have Narcisse die in this cut, is kind of to show that, yes, you can die.
Yeah.
So this is the boss battle.
Yeah, right.
I think they dubbed a scene with Boone up ahead here where he kind of roars, and it seems like there's a different kind of lion roar for Boone.
Yeah.
That's more like Godzilla.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right,
Here.
right. Yeah, it does sound like a lion.
Right there. Did Decker get to say that line that he has in the theatrical, the one where he says, "Great dance, death everywhere, and you and me in the middle"?
No, it's missing.
The Ace of Hearts.
Yeah.
Whack 'em. Rock 'em, sock 'em, breed.
Yeah.
I love this death.
Yeah.
One last dance.
Oh.
Oh. And then he spits on him.
Yeah, and you can see it in HD.
That's right.
Oh my god.
Decker's dead. Hold the knife out.
It looks like he's wearing one of those costumes for Halloween where you have the knife go through your head.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. So yeah, I mean, you were talking about Joyce
Don't go.
rescuing Babette instead of Laurie. I think that kind of finishes his story arc there with his
Yeah.
redemption by helping the little girl that belongs to the Nightbreed. I thought that, he's still holding on to the story there.
And I think it's fine to like all the different versions of the movie for different reasons.
Absolutely. And when we saw Toledo, which was a great shot there, because I've only seen that in a black and white picture before. But Mark Coulier created that makeup, and Sean Harrison, another effects artist, was in the makeup. He told me that he was like, I couldn't hear anything. It was just horrible. And that guy that they just showed, he kind of looks like the law sayer from this guy. From the island of Dr. Moreau.
Right.
And Kinski, of course, he's a member of the Inner Circle.
I think it's really kind of neat and important to see this process of them disassembling Baphomet and putting the pieces in those sheets, and now he's, you know, pretty soon his lower torso is going to be removed, or his legs and abdomen are going to be removed from the torso, and
They're going to rescue him, take him somewhere else.
yeah, and while Baphomet's going through all that, getting taken apart into pieces, then then Ashbury's kind of late to the party, coming along, going, "Hey guys, can I be a Nightbreed?" And you could kind of imagine that Baphomet's probably not in the mood, you know, for that crap right now.
Yeah. So, since this is taken with that HD footage that they found, there were no optic effects for this scene. We saw a little bit of the optic effects for Baphomet that was done by Cliff Cully, which kind of masked the fiber optics work of Jeff Portas. But here, they just have the raw footage of Baphomet talking. Here he is. He's been anointed by God.
Yeah.
You know, he's been turned into... From Boone, he's now Cabal. He's a larger-than-life figure. He's the seventh savior of Midian.
And that glowing, that shape on his forehead, did you ever know about that before the theatrical cut?
I guess I never really noticed it that well, but like I said, I used to have nothing but a VHS work print because...
I never knew about it either until the theatrical cut. And it's even glowing right there, and I think that must have been added into the theatrical cut as an effect.
I want to say I had a VHS tape, not a VHS work print.
Yeah.
And then I had a DVD, but I couldn't watch it because it was not Region 2.
Oh, yeah. I had the DVD later, too. It was fine that it was in widescreen and everything, but it was not a good release.
So Laurie here is grabbing the knife, and we think that she is probably thinking, I'm going to use it to defend myself as we leave Midian, but...
She had a little smirk on her face, like, now I've got Decker's knife that I can defend myself with.
Yeah. I think she might have a different plan for that. So here Ashbury, you know, despite his sympathetic view of the breed...
Yeah.
You know, he's still the enemy. It's more obvious in this cut than in the theatrical that it's Baphomet that really wills that to turn and burn Ashbury as a warning that he's not worthy.
And here these guys are hauling away Baphomet's legs, pulling them away from his body. It's like, you know, now's not really a good time to...
Right. But he's going to touch the blood, and that's...
Yeah. Maybe you should have asked. Yeah, maybe you should have asked first.
The blood of Baphomet knows all the truth.
Yeah.
Oh no, that set off my male pattern baldness. You see some more breed here at the end. There's Otis and Clay.
Who had a big part in the Boom comics.
Right. They only had one shot at doing this.
Wow. That must have been really nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And I love the way the fire bubbles up through Midian here. Again, a miniature set.
Yes, yeah. So good. They just probably slow down the film a little bit, put some sound on it.
Yep. The magic of movie making.
Yeah.
And Joyce's role is done.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of think he's... In the future, I like to think that he's, you know, sort of a collaborator with the Nightbreed, and he helps them.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Or at least he's not going to be so quick to judge.
Yeah. I wonder if he ever puts it together that Decker was the one that killed those families he was investigating.
I don't think he cares.
Yeah. He's got other stuff on his mind right now.
I'm surprised he's still alive.
Yeah.
I love this little altar that Ashbury has constructed.
Yeah, with the hand of glory.
Yeah, yeah. So Ashbury's makeup, Paul Jones, who did it, has a story about it. It was that the makeup appliances were applied in L.A. They were shipped from London to L.A. to be applied by a famous effects artist, Tony Gardner, who went on record as saying, I liked the makeup appliances except for these ones for this character called Ashbury. I really didn't like applying those. They were like kind of cheap looking. And Paul Jones still uses that example to tell his students nowadays that always do your best work because you never know who's going to be, judging it.
I don't think it looks that cheap. I don't know. I mean, it is. I'm not exactly sure what they were going for with it, though.
Yeah, like the ridges in the back of the head. That's strange, but
yeah.
Well, Clive gave him a sketch of how he wanted Ashbury to look like. So. This is a big departure from the book because in the book, Eigerman and Ashbury kind of team up.
Yeah. Well, and Ashbury is a cripple, right? His legs are broken or cut off or something. Right.
So Eigerman is going to use Ashbury as kind of like a hunting dog.
Yeah, and he pushes him around in a wheelchair
because he says that he can smell them.
Gotta start out tonight.
So Russell Charrington called this Gone with the Wind with monsters, and this hill scene kind of reminds me of a shot in Gone in the Wind.
Yeah, and I think it was really surprising to see this scene and that it was cut out. There's no reason to cut this out either. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't hurt this. I mean, there's no narrative difference between if this scene is in or out.
In fact, it kind of cuts important part of the ending because in the theatrical cut, Laurie never transforms into a Nightbreed.
Yeah.
So here Boone doesn't want to subject Laurie to a life as a monster, but she kind of made her choice here.
Yeah.
Their relationship in the book is much more complicated than in the movie.
Yeah.
They're both kind of broken, very fragile people, and they just come together in a way that makes their lives better. In fact, they didn't even have much of a physical relationship in the book.
Right, yeah. Not until after he changed.
Right.
So there's the second time that she kind of uses her own death to motivate Boone.
And that's what she wanted to do with the knife that she took from the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, she may have known that he was going to do something like this.
Just before they shot this scene, they did play around with applying some sort of Cabal-like marks over Laurie's face.
Right, yeah.
After she came back, I just guess it didn't look good enough, so they didn't use it.
Well, and I think she also said that she couldn't handle the appliances on her face, right? Or she didn't like sitting in the makeup chair and not being able to breathe properly. And
I can't blame her.
Yeah.
And if you notice, you can see this in some scenes nowadays, especially in HD, but Peliquin also has some spirals on his face and chest area, too.
Yeah.
Yay, she's back.
Yeah.
She opens her eyes and it's a brand new world.
And in the Nightbreed comic, her power was she could do something with playing music, right?
Yes, she started playing her guitar and you see these giant notes just flowing everywhere and she could animate dead things and objects.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny in a way. That's another miniature set with a barn. The dialogue in this scene lets it end on a much more optimistic note.
Yeah. Who's that older guy sitting on the hay that's standing up right now on the right? It's that's not anybody we've seen. There's Lizzie B. There's that blue lady. There's Peliquin, which he's kind of hard to notice because he's got something wrapped around his head.
His name is Cabal.
I think that was Danny DeVito dressed as the Penguin that wandered in from the Batman set.
What?
I'm just joking. And that was Batman 2, not the first one. Because,
Right.
yeah, for people who don't know, when they were shooting this movie, right on the set next door at Pinewood Studios, Tim Burton was making his Batman.
And when they would ask for things to use in the graveyard that were in the dumpsters over there, they would say no.
Right. Because they didn't want it showing up in other movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Breed knows that Boone is coming, and he's not coming alone. You know, they're not just left staring out of a barn with Narcisse saying goodbye to Boone and Laurie, like in the theatrical cut. And Laurie's not going to age while Boone stays the same anymore.
Yeah.
You know, she's now a part of the Breed as well. I think that the ending of the theatrical cut is much more confusing. It's a bit unsatisfying to me, and just feels like Boone and Laurie are kind of, you know, leaving the Nightbreed to live a life apart from them, which is not how it should end at all. You know, so this is more like the book, so much better.
Yeah.
This is the Cabal book in movie form, finally.
So since we're on the credits here, I'd kind of like to say our Occupy Midian and Clive Barker podcast special thanks, especially to Roger Boyce for the web forum and now Facebook group that brought us together to start the Clive Barker podcast.
And Colin Lekativa for promising to shave his head if we didn't get the 5,000 signatures,
Right.
which later became a 10,000 signature goal.
Yeah. Christine Hoffman, also known as Lady Abigor on Twitter, she had a relentless Twitter campaign for Occupy Midian that helped a lot. She got retweeted by a lot of magazines and horror blogs and stuff, and famous.
I didn't
people.
even know that you could actually run out of tweets for the day, but apparently you can.
That's right. Yeah.
If you tweet too much, they tell you, okay, you can't tweet anymore.
I can't remember how many that was. It was like 10,000 or something crazy.
Yeah. I also want to thank Crystal Rain, who worked with us on the Occupy Midian report, and she also had a curated group of articles from Scoop It, which was called, I think, Bring Back Nightbreed.
Yeah, yeah. Rob Reidenauer was a good, has always been really supportive of the Clive Barker podcast and Occupy Midian, and he still writes features for us now.
And he was a co-host for a long time. Also, I want to thank Andrew Kopp for all his retro reviews and articles that he wrote for our Occupy Midian blog.
David Anderson, who's been sort of our behind-the-scenes expert on a lot of things, Nightbreed and other Clive Barker stuff.
Marcus Williams, one of our recent collaborators that writes articles for the blog as well.
David Sharp, also a recent collaborator and who writes news articles for us and has been co-hosting some episodes with us recently.
Also Bradley Gartz.
Yeah, we got to see Bradley at the Nightbreed 2014 screening. Yeah, the Nightbreed Director's Cut screening.
I also want to thank Elena DeGarmo for all her support of our podcast, and we also met her at the Crest Westwood screening. It was a great pleasure to meet her.
Jay Smith is an old friend and also, Nightbreed fan that's supported Occupy Midian since the beginning. And Robert Schaefer, same, another old friend. And Jennifer, I want to thank Jennifer and Joey for putting up with me during all this Occupy Midian stuff, because it took up a lot of time. And there was a lot of traveling to conventions and stuff.
Our wives are always the best, and I also want to thank my wife, Sarah, for all her support of our podcast and all the time that I've spent talking to you on Skype.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank everyone from Image Animation that posted behind-the-scenes photos and answered all our geeky fan questions, gave us details from their own archives. Everyone that believed that a 25-year-old movie could still rise from the grave and kick back at obscurity, kick you right back in the face and say, hey, I'm here, I'm loved, and I'm still alive, baby.
Yeah. Thanks to Russell Charrington and Jimmy Johnson for making the Cabal cut from the beginning to the end. Everybody at Seraphim, Mark Miller, Ben Mears, and of course Clive Barker himself. Where would we be without Clive Barker?
Yeah, Clive, you create worlds and you make us fall in love with them. you give us wonderlands. I hope you're listening to this because I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because your stories and your art steered me into becoming a more open-minded person, to love the English language and to appreciate the beauty that surrounds us, even in the unlikeliest of places, and that the differences that make us diverse are also the differences that make life interesting, and those differences should be celebrated, not normalized or feared or made fun of. Thank you.
Honestly, I think my life would be completely different without Clive Barker. I mean, geez, look at how much time we've dedicated to him through the podcast and all this stuff that we do.
But look at all the friends that we made in the meantime.
So now we're back to Johnny Get Angry, which is cool that they sort of brought that back. It used to be the obscure Country Skin song, that was in there, and it was kind of like, why is that in here? Because it wasn't in the theatrical cut at all.
So thank you for watching, and I hope you had a fun time watching the movie with us.
Yeah.
Go check out our blog at www.clivebarkercast.com.
Wait for it. Here it comes.
Oh my God. There's been so many people complaining about the lack of this ending and the director's
cut. This was a smart addition to put it at the end, sort of Marvel style.
Oh, you know what? I even forgot that this was in here. There's Ashbury. Like Andrew Furtado and Mark Miller said, he's a very vertical actor. He always looks up and down.
Where other actors look side to side. It's interesting to hear a director's or like an editor's point of view on stuff like that, because I never would have thought of that.
Oh, that's so gross.
Yeah, he did get stabbed like 6 times in the chest. It's a big open, gaping wound. He's probably missing a bunch of his organs.
Of course, the question nobody ever asks is, how does he see through those buttons? I guess we'll never know. He's alive. Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
Oh, man. Thanks, everybody, for listening to us. This has been really awesome. Here's some Cabal cut credits, or just a really short one-screen kind of a thing.
All right, bye.
Yeah. Find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and every other place you can find podcasts. The Clive Barker Podcast is an independent editorial podcast and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.